Hi, this is Robert Marney with Current SCM. In this video, I'm going to quickly cover some major concepts within the application and show a little bit of where you can find different bits of information. Thanks. When you first log in, this is the main dashboard of the application. It gives you a little bit of context to what's going on within your task, what your team's doing, as well as gives you an entry into all other parts of the application. Looking at the navigation within it, we consider this our main left menu, and from here you can do most things. Our top menu is split into an area for your last project, your current project that you're working on, as well as some different menus. So clicking on the bell, the notification bell, we see what all of our notifications are. Our quick access brings us quickly back to the projects that we most recently worked on, as well as orders, bids, things of that nature. Clicking on our names, depending on your role, you be able to administer your organization as well as switch to other teams you might be part of or log out. Great. So from our left-hand menu at the top, we have all of our team scoped resources. So these are people, places, businesses, our actual catalog, and then access into our projects. The second part of our menu goes into working within a specific project. So in this demo, we have a project called 2021 Bikes, and that has its own requisitions, bids, orders, and reporting functionality. Next part of the menu talks about the account, and this menu again will be contextual on your role within your organization. All users have a user hub. Team administrators can customize their team, and organizational administrators can manage the organization's account. And then from there, some things that help you out. We have our in-application help documents, contact for support if you're a named support contact, and then ability to log out again. Without further ado, I'm just going to quickly click through a few things and sort of highlight what they are and what they're used for. So people is really straightforward from a vendor management perspective. We need to keep track of who works where, perhaps jot down some notes, attach some files, or assign tasks related to a person. Flipping over to our businesses, again, businesses are essential for our procurement activities, and businesses can be, some are many types. Pretty much within the application, general concept is there is the ability to, add new records, dive in and view that record. And getting into this business, again, the highlight, this notes, files, and tasks is a very common thing that you're going to see throughout pretty much the entire application. Again, it's the thought is that this is a good place for your teams to put relevant information to the entity that we're looking at. So within the businesses have, again, people. They also have locations. Locations are used within the application to either as mailing addresses or destinations for shipment, places to fabricate. If there's inventory related to that specific business, you can find it in here. And then you'll also see, as we work with this either vendor or client, relevant things like orders or bids or anything that we've done with or on behalf of that business will start appearing in this top menu. Next area that we have is our catalog, and for most users, they're going to be consumers of catalog. There's other videos that really dive into depth about setting up and organizing the catalog, but simply we have the ability to try to find things. So just quick search in our bike demo, see some information about our handlebars. These are items that are ready for purchase. You can dive in and get a little bit more detail about the item specifics. Items also can have task files, notes, and then we can dive into things like transactions. So great. Moving ahead, we're going to actually enter into a project mode now. This is the fun stuff. So in this demo, we are a bike manufacturer, and we are going to be purchasing our retail line of bicycles. So, this is from a retail perspective, we're starting to manufacture 18 months out, and we need to move from the engineering design data by our design teams and go all the way through the process of competitive bidding and then ordering and moving raw materials through different fabrication and then ultimately down to our retail locations. So quickly working through the project menu at the top here, we have our basic info about the project. What are the core locations? What are relevant key dates for the application? When are we starting? When are we ending? There's also an audit log around what activities occurred within the project. Give you the full history, and you can sort of dive in and get the specifics. We have our bill of materials. This is an area where you can import engineering data, raw data. It's not essential, but it does provide some really cool functionality for more sophisticated users. Our project inventory also talks about everything that we currently have in stock, summarizes sort of our plans when things are coming in, and then diving in, we can get a little bit more specifics around if we've actually transacted on them, where we've maybe bid on the products, any kind of competitive bid pricing that we got, and when we've actually ordered things. And sort of sky's the limit in terms of drop down, but in this case we can see that we purchased these mountain bike tires. They're in the process of being delivered to a location. We can sort of see what the plans the teams outlined, understand pricing, all that cool stuff. In terms of core supply chain and procurement activities, starting point for the application is the process of requisition. This is an optional part of the application, but again, for sophisticated users, it's there, and it's ready to go from a long list of things that you need to buy to achieve your goals, arrange them and partition them into logical groupings, and then from there potentially bid them out. So just quickly flipping through again, there's a lot of common concepts you'll start getting used to, but we have key dates. We have the ability to group things and assign them. We can assign things like cost codes. And I'll flip over to the bill of materials. So I think this is a good time to introduce a general concept of the application. In that our bill of materials are split between four major types. The one that most people are used to, having purchased anything or planned for purchase, is we're buying things. There's a purchase items area. Conceptually, these are the things that you're going to be paying your suppliers for. In more sophisticated purchasing environments, there's also a concept of that you might have to supply some inputs to the process, especially when you are fabricating or assembling, or a service is being rendered upon an item. So in this world, a client supplied item would correspond to inputs that you own, that you've purchased in the past, that you are going to provide to the vendor as part of their to facilitate them preparing and giving you the purchase item. From there, there's also vendor supplied items. Again, sophisticated world, there's times where we note what items we expect the vendor should build into their pricing. Not as relevant in the requisition world, highly relevant in the competitive bid and order perspective. And then finally, feed through. In industry, this would be a good example would be bag and tagged or ship loose items that are merely moving through the process. Again, we don't need it as much for the requisitions. There's a spot for it, but very relevant once we get to the bid and order stage. So going from the requisitions, another major concept is sort of the chaining of things and like items. So, in this case, we're buying, or we have a requisition for tubing. And once that has been marked as ready to bid, was transferred to a bid, tubing bid. And then from there, we received a few different offers towards that bid. We did a split award and we turned it into an order. But without further ado, we're going to dive into the bid. And I'll show you how to get there. You could have either clicked right on there. Another alternative is to go into our bids menu and then select the relevant bid. So in our bid, a lot of, again, the key things that we're starting to get recognition on, there's key information, there's locations, dates, and groups. Oops. Clicked a little fast there, my computer is frozen. Dates in the system are highly flexible. we'll show in the other videos how you can customize sort of what the default is for your team, but you also have the ability to add ad hoc dates as relevant for whatever you're doing. So, I could click on a new date, select the type from either a predetermined white or do a custom date. So, and away we go. Well, there's a lot to cover within this bid space. Just wanted to highlight some really cool features. So one of them that we love is our comparison grid. This is the ability to really visualize, all the feedback that we got from our proponents as we went out to bid. The ability to drill down and see our custom evaluations that we did for this bid, as well as we can rearrange, visualize only single offers. Really powerful stuff when you have lots and lots of proponents coming back. From there, you can also drill into a little bit more of the details about what we're being provided from each. Sometimes, you ask for an apple, they come back with an alternative like an orange, and trying to make sense of that. The system also ships with pre-built, awesome PDF representation of all this data. You just got to click the generate. Another concept I wanted to highlight while we're here is the ability to subscribe and get notifications to changes within the application. So in this case, I have requested that I get browser notifications to any change within this bid, but I could just as easily switch that off and switch over to an email notification or nothing at all. The icon here will sort of indicate what our current setting is. So we know when you log in and look at one of these things, if you're going to be receiving notifications. You can opt in and opt out at any time. Got our files, notes, and everything. Finally, last major concept I wanted to highlight here is our workflows. So the application has really robust workflows, and for our sophisticated customers, there's the ability to customize these workflows, and really sky's the limit. Who and when and how people can interact with the workflow is driven by their roles. We're going to hit that on another video as well, but it's important to know that within the application, you have both roles within the projects that you're working on, as well as the teams that you are a member of. Flipping back to our menu, I'm just going to quickly go to an order to show you, what that bid turned into. So in this case, we have a tubing order, and again, a lot of very similar things. These menus will change a little bit based on the context that we're working in. So, as we've actually ordered something and there's money being transferred, financials become really important. So getting a bit of a summary. Wanted to highlight, we do support multi-currency. There's a concept of a project currency, and then anything within it can have its own currencies, and you have the ability to customize and set your effective exchange rates on a per transaction basis. So some of these menus are really useful for people who are, occasional supply chain users. The ability to dive in and get an appreciation for, what a term means, I think is helpful. So within the order space, we have our bill of materials that we're starting to get used to again. Concept maybe to highlight while we're here is, depending on your role within the process or what the activity you are doing today, there might be, a different need and different information that you would like to see. So in here, we've built out some contextual views. So in this case, I'm looking at the financials. So it's heavy on unit prices, exchange rates, currency, your cost coding. We have material control that helps us know, great, we're buying something, but what are we doing with it? How is it going to be consumed downstream? Drill downs again allow me to dive right into the details of this catalog item, get an appreciation for a little bit more of the specifics. We can see inventory and how we've purchased things in the past here. Tasks, files, as well as status updating on a per line basis within our purchase order. So, for our expediters, we thought of you when we added this feature. The ability to status update each individual line is really powerful. Material management is a really important part of executing complex projects, making sure items get to the right place at the right time. Current SEM uses a plan and then execute approach. We are able to plan before the purchase order is even issued, and then continuously monitor and then finally execute on those plans. We allow for multi releases of the same item. Plans are really easy to turn into actual actionable releases, and then we can also get the full history of the releases as they actually happened. Expediting tab also allows our expediters to create their own important dates, whether it be a material inspection or something to that effect, your own status updates, notes, files, and tasks. Invoicing for our project controls teams, and then again, tasks. What we love about tasks and actually attaching them right to the PO or right to the bid is that it's really easy to dive in and get straight to work and understand where we sit in the process. From a project management perspective, I wanted to highlight some cool tools that the system has to help you keep track of all these tasks that might be all over the application. So, jumping into our project reporting view, we can get appreciate for the status of all of our tasks. We can drill and get the individual status of our requisitions, our orders, and bids, and just click to follow and dive in. Why is this still in the draft state? We should be well beyond that. Getting appreciation for what we're planning to spend and what we've committed and invoiced to date on the project. And then diving over into our dynamic reporting engine. This is probably my favorite part of the application. So far, we've seen a lot of great interfaces for storing data, organizing it, keeping everyone's data structured. But then, of course, how do we get the data out? How do we visualize? How do we bring it all together? So within the application, there's a lot of predefined starting points for reports, and then you have the ability to easily customize to meet your exact specifications. So I've opened up an example order items report that sort of talks about each line of all of our POs within this order. And from there, I have the ability to do a couple really cool things. I could customize the view, drag and drop additional columns, and the page will automatically re-render with that data. I also have the ability to load existing views that I've saved previously. I can also pick up and share views that might have been shared with me by my team. What's great about this is that every stakeholder can create, save, and utilize their own views and their own ways of looking at the data. All the data is live. It's driven by the system. There's no spreadsheets to update. There's no crazy customization required. It's all individual driven. Easily export to Excel and PDF, and focus more on the value creation exercise and less about re-entering data, organizing spreadsheets, all that nasty stuff. All right, awesome. The other things I just wanted to highlight, if you wanted to customize your own profile, perhaps log out of other devices, heading over to your user hub is the place to go. Customizing teams, if you are a team administrator, there's a lot of really cool customizations here. Assigning roles within the team, setting out how we want to evaluate dates, actually importing data into the application, and then our help area. So if you ever get lost within the application, our help is a really good place to start. And you'll probably start noticing throughout the application, if you look, we have a lot of contextual help that will bring you right to sort of the relevant topic. So from our reports, I'm just going to click in and we see sort of talks what you're looking at, what you're seeing. And then if I wanted to dive into it, I get right into our project reporting. So that was everything I wanted to cover today. Thanks for your time. I hope to see you soon.